What are some of the things that are important to do from your perspective up front to try to get that buy-in or to try to get people to play in the same sandbox?
Number one is you have to set the vision and expectations up front. Culture is all about setting the tone for your team. And if you don't have the right culture, the right foundation, leadership really doesn't matter.
I think the good news is this industry's dynamic. I'll go back to that word, my favorite word of the day. I think internal partnerships are harder than external because the rules of engagement are pretty clear.
Partnerships are integral to success, both professionally, personally, and understand how you make those partnerships be profitable.
What excites you about the industry and where it's all going?
Breeding excitement, breeding the fun into our business, that brings culture that can help us move things forward faster. And those that can harness that and use it as a tool to our advantage is going to help both culture, is going to help leadership, it's going to help everything.
Hello, friends. Welcome to Crave, the IFDA Podcast. Today's leadership conversation is with Brenna Garrett, Senior Vice President, Chief Commercial Officer at Sysco. Welcome to Crave, Brenna.
Hey, thank you, Julien. Nice to see you.
So I'm going to put you on the spot right away because I know you can handle it, Brenna. How would you describe Sysco and, more importantly, the role that you're currently playing in the equation at Sysco?
Well, Sysco is the world leader in food distribution. We are located in 10 countries and very, very proud about the fact that we're servicing our customer every single day. My role in Sysco is to basically get the right product in stock at the right price for our customers every single day. So I lead our merchandising organization, inventory, and revenue management teams. And really, it's that triangle to get all the product to our customers that's critically important. Very, very excited. Been here 4 years. It's been a whirlwind, and I've enjoyed every single second of it.
Well, listen, as I was preparing for this, obviously you go digging a bit, and you seem like someone that's all in. So, of course, you're involved on the board of directors of IFDA as well. Tell us a little bit about the importance of IFDA and maybe what you love about this industry. Because 4 years, obviously you came from, I believe you were at Macy's as well. You had a very successful career prior, yeah. So.
Yeah. The jump from apparel to food has been an interesting one. I thought it was going to be easy. It's just denim versus, hot dogs, but it is a very, very different industry. IFDA's been an amazing, amazing part of my journey. They have taught me a ton, and what an unbelievable industry advocate for us. And they stand behind our industry. They support our industry. And I just believe that IFDA is something that we all need to lean in a little bit harder on. But overall, the food service industry is something that is dynamic. It's fun. It's food. I mean, God forbid, it's food. We love talking about food. We love talking about merchandising food. So I'm having a blast in this job. And it has been something that I never thought I would have so much fun this late in my career. And I'm learning something new every single day.
I always detect this sense of kind of curiosity or beginner's mindset, because just when you think you've figured something out, you get slammed with something. And as we know, a lot of things need to go right in order to get that product to the operator that ultimately will, feed Americans, Canadians, or whoever else we're serving around the world. What was the biggest surprise for you, maybe? Because, the people side, we're going to talk about leadership. So leadership's leadership. I think if you replace denim or hot dog, there's some similar principles. But any surprise or things that you would tell your friends to say, geez, I wasn't expecting that when I came to the food distribution business?
The supply chain in the food industry is very dynamic, right? We are very reliant on weather. We're very reliant on macro conditions, very reliant on market conditions in terms of how markets might move within inflation, deflation. We didn't have to deal with the internal macros within the US as much as we have to do now. So that's something that's very dynamic. Just think about the turn on food, right? The turnover on food, just the shelf life. That's something that's so significantly different than in a retail or a clothing apparel business. So that's something else that's been significantly challenging to learn, but also just fun. It just makes the fast pace, and it's been something that I've really enjoyed learning about and also challenging my team to be faster and even better about. So those are probably two of the biggest dynamics that are very different. But in general, I think that the food industry is something that it's a young industry, right? It's something that retail is something that's 250, 300 years old. Food service is something that's still learning where it wants to go. Like think about all the digital tools that are still just breaking into this industry and how we can get even smarter in that space.
I'm going to keep using the word dynamic because, a lot of times when I talk to people, they're like, oh, there's all these challenges. But really, at the end of the day, you're right that we are a young industry relative to some industries that have been around forever, or at least how we do things. And I think there's so many opportunities for those that choose to view it as opportunities versus challenges, or that really lean into this dynamism and energy. So the purpose of this podcast, Brenna, when we launched it, was really about, of course, we can sit here and talk about Sysco, and I know you'd be proud to tell us, what are the things that you and your team are doing and how you're serving your customers. But this is really about leadership, and it's about you and our listeners, our people that are on a journey, whether they're middle of their career, later in their career, or even early in their career. And I think they can benefit from listening to leaders talk about culture and technology and building high-performance teams. So I thought we would start with culture because, okay, look, there's that famous quote. I think I've quoted it 5 times on the podcast, but it's so good that I can't resist. Culture will eat strategy for breakfast. That Peter Drucker quote. So I'm just going to assume that, as a leader, you get the strategy right most times. And if you don't, you pivot. But the culture thing is a whole other beast.
Well, I think culture is all about setting the tone for your team. Again, you're right. Culture is everything. And if you don't have the right culture, the right foundation, leadership really doesn't matter. And I think that if we all want to drive growth with our customers, we all want to drive growth with our team, we want to develop our teams. But the culture is the door that opens up that allows for that growth, whether it's personal growth or professional growth for their team. So having a really open, trusting culture is something that I strive for. And I hope my team would sit here and say that that's what we have. But you have to work at it. It's not something that it's just come in, you take an engagement score and you have one meeting and you hope that it just sticks. It's something that every single staff meeting, every single time you get in front of your team, you have to reinforce. And you have to live by it. You can't just say, this is my culture. You actually have to live and breathe that culture every single day because your people know that and your teams can see it. So if you live it and you breathe it, I think it can go through the organization pretty fast. But again, you have to continue to work at it every single day.
I know that we're fellow corporate athletes, so you obviously spent some time playing ball. I'm going to rewind the clock a bit, right? Way back in the day. Are there examples or stories of, I don't know, being on a team that you just, and I'm going to use the word feeling, because I think we like to describe culture, but there's just, at the end of the day, sometimes it is a feeling. You just feel something unique, whether there's accountability, whether there's almost this radical canter that takes place, or all for one, one for all. So do you have examples of teams you've been with, whether it's in the business world, in the sports world, and maybe what made that culture special?
I was lucky enough to play competitive sports my entire life. I owe a lot of my leadership skills, maybe just my competitive skills, to that part of my life. And like you mentioned, I played in college and we won a national championship. And during that time, winning a national championship, to your point, there was just chemistry the team had. We could kind of read each other. We kind of knew where the ball was going to go before we went there. And yes, you can play a sports metaphor all throughout that whole thing, but the reality of it is we were just good friends and we got each other. And we were able to mesh both personally and off the court and on the court. And it was something that you couldn't really replicate. To your point, it was a feeling. So fast forward that onto a professional sense. I've been on teams that have that and teams that don't. And the stark difference of how you perform as a team when you have it and when you don't bleeds into what you just said. The culture is everything, right? This ability to trust each other, this ability to be able to lean on each other, to know that people have each other's back, is a real thing. And then on the flip side, always looking over your shoulder, wondering if they're talking behind your back. Right, those are also real things too. And if you're always watching out for yourself and your back versus thinking about the team's dynamic, you're not going to have your best performance, and your team's not going to have your best performance. So I do think that it bleeds in sports, it bleeds in professional life, and I think overarching, it is a feeling But again, it's something you have to work at and you have to be very conscious of, both as an individual, as part of the team, but also as a leader, as part of the team, to make sure that you're having those conversations holistically and that you're bringing that trust to the team.
But this word proactive, I think when I look at a healthy culture, it's, yes, they're taking care of the present and there's trust in play and they're doing interesting work with people they like doing it with and they're not afraid to have these tough conversations. There's this notion of always making sure that we're one step ahead, or at least we're anticipating where that puck's going to go, where that ball's going to go. How do you see cultures evolving from, let's say, if you go back to when you're in college, great. So there wasn't all the distractions of technology we have now. Now we have technology. So
I honestly think that technology is the information highway, right? There's so much information at our fingertips, so much education at our fingertips. Think about all those leadership books. Think about all those quotes. Think about just podcasts, all that stuff that you could get to that allows you to understand why you might feel some way, or why a team might be acting some way. That all allows you to have education. That education then can help feed how you're going to bring culture to life, right? Doesn't bring culture to life by itself, but it allows you to have a tool. So if you think about AI as a tool to inform how you can bring that culture to the forefront, I think that's the best way to think about it. And it's only the beginning, right? If you start to use that as a crutch, it's not going to be the same. You have to use it as something that enhances you, it enhances your team. And I think we're just learning that as a culture. We're learning it as a holistic professional industry.
Yeah,
We're learning
sure.
what to do, how to use it, use it to the best of our ability. Yes, there's a lot of press about taking people out and taking hours out. That's all true, but the reality of it is it's an unbelievable tool that can help us move things forward faster. And those that can harness that and use it as a tool to our advantage is going to help both culture, is going to help leadership, it's going to help everything. So.
What a great answer, because as I was asking the question, I'm thinking, I have no idea how I would ask. You ask a question, I have no idea what the answer is. So well played. Well, I think you'll find this fascinating. I was with a technology company recently and I was doing some strategy work with them. And the first rule was, okay, put our phones in the box over there. So here's a technology company that's literally leaning in, that's saying, hey, for the next hour, we don't need technology. And literally after they left, I know exactly what they did is, let's take all the white paper we created, let's dump it in ChatGPT and say, hey, if McKinsey created a strat plan, what would it look like? So it was a toggle of, let's really nail let's call it the fundamentals, the leadership skills that'll never go away, being present, listening to each other, not relying on it. So I kind of left there thinking it was a yes and. It was like let's use the technology and let's get even better at the things that matter as human to humans doing business, which, as we know in food service, this is still very much a human to human business.
That is another huge differentiator of our industry, is that it's still such a relationship business. There's still such a human touch to this business. Our customers still like to haggle, like owning revenue management and seeing the pricing every single day. That's a huge deal. Like coming from Macy's, it was like, this was the price. This was the advertised price. This is the price you get. This is the price you pay. And yes, we're on sale all the time, but yes, that was it. But in this industry, it's dynamic, it's moving, it's ins and outs. It's hey, I'll give you a deal on this, but I need you to sell this. Those are real dynamics, but it comes with a human touch. It comes with a relationship. Technology enhances that. Technology is also behind the scenes of that. But how technology and that human touch actually interact is an unlock that I think that we're all still trying to work on in this industry. And it's something that those that are starting to unlock it are going to get better and faster, quicker. But it is a dynamic that we're struggling with, I think, as an industry, of understanding how fast is the consumer going to come with us, the customer, the mom and pops of the restaurants going to come with us. How fast do they want technology to be in forefront versus the relationship that they're used to? And I think those are the things that all of us as food distributors are working through.
It's going to be really interesting to play out. And the one thing I keep reminding people is I was doing a conference for one of our IFDA members the other day, and I said, 3 years ago, if I would ask the question, who here is using ChatGPT, it didn't even exist. It wasn't even on anybody's strat plan. And think of how much airspace. I mean, we just spent 5 minutes talking about it. So I think the good news is this industry is dynamic. I'll go back to that word, my favorite word of the day. And I think it's all about leaning into it while still, being cautious. I think there's a bit of a toggle there. I want to talk a bit about partnerships, because the one thing I do know is I looked at your LinkedIn bio, and congrats, you've had a hell of a ride, and you keep saying yes to a lot of different roles that obviously keeps helping you elevate and have more impact as a leader, because you cannot be successful like you've been without having great partners along the way. Is that a fair statement to start off with?
Yes, absolutely. And knowing what a good partnership looks like is also critically important.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I think partnerships are integral to success, both professionally, personally, externally, and internally. I think internal partnerships are almost as critically important as external partnerships. When you look at a business the size of Sysco, understanding how to maneuver through a big company is just as important as understanding how to make partnerships with the external. So I'll touch on all of those. So as I kind of came through, growing up in a retail industry, but a big company, I grew up needing to understand how to make those industry partners and understand how you make those partnerships be profitable was something that bringing both sides to the table, right? Understanding how they needed to make money, how to understand how we needed to make money was something that was critically important. That whole what's in it for me, what it's in it for them. Those kind of conversations are critically important as you think about external partnerships. I think internal partnerships are a bit more complicated and something that we're also thinking through right now. As we brought together the commercial organization within Sysco, we had a field merchandising organization and a central merchandising organization. And forever, since they've started, there's been two different silos within our organization. And as we brought these two teams together under my leadership, we've now broken down that wall that was in between it. The partnerships that are now starting between these two teams have been unbelievable. Quite frankly, I was a little nervous. There's a lot of finger pointing for
Of
years.
course.
But getting them into a common goal, having them see the common strategy, putting them on the same team and making them figure out their differences in the moment, those things are real. And that raw trust and those raw conversations build stronger partnerships and real partnerships faster than you could ever imagine. And again, I think there's value in understanding how to build that and kind of break down that internal wall to allow that trust to happen. And it's not easy. But again, if you work at it and you allow yourself to build that trust with that person, that partnership naturally comes. But it does take both sides coming into the middle to have those conversations.
I think internal partnerships are harder than external because the rules of engagement are pretty clear. If you and I are going to do business externally, we might negotiate, we might agree to disagree. But internally, sometimes there's history. It's now my boss against your boss, not even the two of us. It's KPIs might not align. And the one thing I know with big organizations like Sysco is you have all these centers of excellence. Like, you're amazing at what you do, but there's probably a lot of value sitting in between these centers of excellence. And when you pull them together like you did, you have a clear rally cry, or there's a bit of clarity around where we're going. It's not going to happen overnight, but I love, again, that trust slowly builds, and then you just have more impact, and everybody's better as a result of it, right?
Yeah, but I think we, to your point, we sometimes concentrate too much on the external, but we're almost not. I always tell everybody, make sure your room's clean. Your own room has to be clean before you worry about everybody else. And we need to make sure that our partnerships internally are solid, which means we're aligned strategically. There's no issues within our house before we then can get external partners that are strong, because they can't find a kink in our armor, right? And so the stronger our partnerships are internally, the better off we'll be as a company.
And when you're leading a big organization like you are, that customer, the operator, the partners, they see the tip of the iceberg, right? They don't see all the magic that needs to take place and the complexity to get it to there. And then when you merge, I'm going to use culture here since we talked about culture. So you merge kind of like two teams, right? What are some of the things that are important to do from your perspective up front to try to get that buy-in or to try to get people to play in the same sandbox, that maybe they're not used to? Are there some attributes that jump out at you?
Yeah, I mean, number one is you have to set the vision and expectations up front quickly. As we brought the teams together, the first thing we did is I wrote a new vision statement for the team. Where we're headed, what's the North Star, what are we gonna all go anchor on? Once you have the anchor point, you can start to build on how we're gonna get there, and we're gonna build it on how we're gonna get there together. Um, we did a couple offsites together. We did a couple team building events together just to kind of break down, get to know each other. Obviously, you usually like people you know a little bit better. So, and breaking down, like, what do you like to do outside of work? Personally, what do your family like? That kind of stuff goes a long way in building relationships. So, doing it as quickly as possible, ripping the band-aid on all that stuff, don't let it fester, is critically important. So that was the number one thing I did. And then on top of that, it's just being consistent in your messaging. Every single similar to culture, consistently messaging your vision, consistently every single town hall, I start and end with the same slide. Every single town hall, I reiterate the same culture points. So it's in I hope that every single person on my team can repeat my statement, right? Every single person on my team should be able to tell the elevator pitch of what our vision statement is. While my team might think every single time it's a little dated and a little old, and maybe I'm feeling that sometimes too, I'm not going to take my foot off the gas, and it's going to stay this same message until for this entire year, and we're not going to take our foot off the gas because the more consistent, the more repetitive we can be, the better off we'll be in terms of that messaging.
It really seems like you've said yes to a lot of different things over your career, which I'm assuming there's times you're probably like, am I really ready for this? Or do I have the expertise, but I'm going to put myself there and figure it out. What advice would you give to people to try different roles, to put their hands up, to get outside their comfort zone? I'd love to riff off that for a little bit, Brenna.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I've had a lot of really great mentors in my career. I've had really great bosses in my career. And I've had many people tell me in various ways, basically never say no to an opportunity. And one could argue, what is an opportunity, right? How do you say, like, how do you define what an opportunity is? Um, to me, an opportunity is something that you can learn. Are you going to learn something new? I think people often get tied up, and I see this on my team. I see this with my mentees. They get tied up with the vertical. They want to move up, 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 up. And so much of our world now is like a lattice, right? So much of it is sideways up, sideways up. And we have to be okay with that. And I think we should celebrate that more because there's something to be said about understanding a different function, understanding a role that might be adjacent to your role to make you, when you come back to that role, you're even better because you've understood, you walked in those shoes, right? When I was at Macy's, I was a buyer, and I worked in the buying office I was buying women's apparel or something at the time, and I got tapped to say, I need you to go do a store rotation. And I was like, store rotation? What are you talking about? Like, I'm in the buying office. Like, I don't just. And so they're like, no, you're going to go learn how to be a manager on this floor. I was scared out of my mind. I was all of, 24, 25 years old. First time I'd ever led a big team. The team was all older than me. I had no idea how to lead a team that size. Not to mention just just understanding how to put out a pair, like how to actually merchandise the floor, how to sign the floor, how to price the floor. And it made me realize that all the decisions I was making in that buying office and all those last minute price changes and the signs that I'd screw up and all the stuff that I would do in the office, what the impact was downstream to the stores. That rotation was the most valuable thing that I ever did in my time at Macy's because I reflected on that time, and it was a 6 month, 9 month rotation. I never reflected on a role more in my entire life when I was back into my other role. And it was because I said yes. It was because I said, sure, you're right, I'll try it. And that was a trust. I trusted my leader. I said, "Are you sure?" And they're like, "No, you're gonna love it. It's gonna be great." And I remember waking up at 6 a.m. and doing inventory and being like, "I don't love this. This is gonna be awful." But I look back at it and I still to this day value that time, even though I'm in a different industry now, because it taught me this frontline um, and reminded me that like the decisions you make in this office out in New York City and the impact that you're going to make out in the stores in Pennsylvania, those two things are connected. And remembering those frontline workers is something that I'll never forget. And so even now in my role today, I think a lot about the sales consultants. I think a lot about our operational warehouse workers. What is this going to do different for them? And thinking about those stores. So that's just one example of a yes, because I think that every role that you take will bring value at some point, and you might not know what that value is yet, but at some point you'll look back and be like, I got it. I understood why they asked me to go do that role. So that would be one thing I'd say. And then the other big thing I'd say is, you know, you surround yourself by people that are smarter than you. And the way you surround yourself by people that are smarter than you is get uncomfortable. And
Yep.
so if you're uncomfortable, it means you're learning. And so moving into a role that you don't really know that very much about, you're going to be uncomfortable a lot. And I think that's the best time to learn. Um, and I think that's the best time to actually put yourself out there and be humble and open yourself up and say, teach me something. And I think that's really when you as a leader develop your best self. So
And look, I think there's a difference. Sometimes it's hard to maybe say yes to an actual role knowing that you're going to go sideways when really, when you look back, like at the stage in our careers, I should have said yes to 10 other things. Because, for instance, when I was a VP of sales, I would have been a way better VP of sales if I would have understood other components, let's say, of ops. And whether it would have been a formal role or not, I did try to say, hey, if I'm going to serve operators, I probably should spend a shift with an operator to see what happens in the back of the house. I probably should jump on a truck at one point to understand all the components. Are there things like that you've seen done, whether it was in previous lives, whether you're doing now, where you're saying, look, DSRs, DSMs, you're jumping on a truck. Like you need to have that empathy because everything you sell, you've now added complexity if you don't understand. Yeah. So.
absolutely. I mean, I still like it back to the Macy's example, but to fast forward to this example, everybody in our industry should do a rotation on with a truck driver. Everyone should see how hard our truck drivers' job is. I mean, back to what IFDA does, they support those frontline workers so well, like our warehouse workers, our truck drivers, and that's the beauty of what IFDA does so well. Go out there and see what these guys do, how heavy these cases are, how hard the conditions are, the traffic they deal with, the parking tickets they deal with. It's unbelievable what these guys do on a daily basis, and yet they wake up every single day and they get there at 3 a.m. and they do it all over again. So 100%, I would recommend every single person in this industry gets into a truck and understands how a truck, what that looks like. Similarly, be there for selection overnight. Understand an overnight selection process. Like, wow, these guys are in freezer suits at 3 in the morning picking ice cream. Like, that is a hard job. No matter what you do, that's a hard job. So as you think about, my experience back to the department store is nothing compared to what these guys do. And so understanding how every decision that we make from a center-led whatever function we're in could impact those roles is critically important. How do we make our team's jobs easier should be everything we think about. And that's what IFTA does. That's what our teams, our individual teams do. As part of my vision statement is actually supporting our internal customers. Our internal customers are our sales consultants and our frontline workers. And every decision that my commercial team makes should be putting the internal customer at the forefront of that decision, right? And it's critically important to actually see it and understand it to be able to know what to do to make that decision easier. So I'm a huge believer in rotations, and it doesn't have to be every month. Just do it once a year, do it a couple times a year. Get out there, see what's happening, listen. do roundtables. It doesn't have to necessarily be you have to be there at 3 in the morning every single time. It's just how do you listen and hear and really take time to understand what these guys are dealing with every single day.
And I'll plug a little segment that took place last year at the IFDA Distribution Solution Conference in Columbus, where I was on the floor and I got to interview some truck drivers, some drivers that were in the Hall of Fame, because that's amazing to get in that IFDA Hall of Fame. I mean, their track record's off the chart. And it was interesting hearing their perspective and how they view their roles. And I mean, they are the last line of defense. Like, I mean, they're having the conversation and they can sell the brand and they can help the DSRs and the DSMs and the marketing teams and the ops team and so forth. So I would say absolutely. I think it's a combination. Get on a truck, see how the products are picked, and then understand their mindset. Talk to them if you bump into them. Again, listening to these podcasts, really, they were short snippets, like kind of 5-10 minutes, but it really gave you the mindset of what they go through in a day. And let's keep building on this theme, because I think I can sense that you're a lifelong learner, that you're constantly looking to be a better leader as well. You're investing in yourself. Are there books, podcasts, I don't know, it could be courses you've taken recently that you would either recommend or just maybe tell us a little bit about how it might shifted your leadership over time? I'd just love to hear some thoughts around that.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge leadership book person. I just finished Multipliers by Liz Wiseman. I've read it a few times. Yeah, I love that one. It's I don't know if everyone hasn't read it, I recommend it. It's just about getting the best out of your team. It's about how you look for diminishers, right? Like tendencies that it might be good in a moment, but if you overuse them, it might not be a great one. So just as a plug, I'm a rescuer, and I know I dive in and I help my team too much sometimes, and I need to make sure I'm balancing that out with how you think about that. So it's a really good kind of book and a moment to self-reflect, but also to really understand how you get the best out of your team. So I just read that one. I'm a huge podcast person, but I'm really more of a news and history buff person that has nothing to do with leadership. But again, I think what you need to do in all of anything that you can get your mind wrapped around something that can keep you interested, learn and teach you something. It doesn't matter what you're learning, it allows you to think differently. It allows you to draw on something differently. It allows you to take a break from your daily life. It allows you to clear your mind, maybe de-stress. I'll put a podcast on and just take a long walk. And I think that alone makes me a better leader, a better mother, a better person, because I'm able to walk in and have a different perspective just because I cleared my mind. So whether it's very prescriptive and very intentional in terms of reading about leadership or reading about the industry, or if it's just, hey, I've got a guilty pleasure about a history, something like that. I'm just like want to hear about. I think no matter what it is, I think being intentional about your time and understanding that all of that's going to make you a better person in the sense of being able to clear your mind and understand a little bit of time for yourself. I think that overarching makes it all worth it. And quite frankly, that alone will make it a better leadership.
I love it. I was having a conversation similar to this. We're talking about books, and I'm an avid reader. I love American history. I love leadership, science of success. And he looked at me and he says, Julien, do you read sci-fi? And I was like, no, I don't do sci-fi. He goes, I would encourage you, pick 1 or 2 books, because it's going to take you outside and it's going to spark some ideas that when you do read that business book, you might look at it differently. And it was just a different twist of creativity. And to your point, be intentional about it. Agree to read at least one sci-fi this year in the next 12 months.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna come back to you and tell you how it does. Yeah, no, I'm all for that. But if you're intentional about like just doing something that maybe a little bit uncomfortable, again,
There you go.
it's like trying to get yourself a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe you'll hate it, but that's okay. At least you know what you love and you hate, right? And I think that's just something that we should all just do a little bit more of.
Let's finish here. I'd like to finish in 2 areas. What excites you about the industry and where it's all going?
Well, I mean, I said it earlier. I mean, what's more exciting than food? I think it's a really fun industry to be part of. It's a really dynamic industry to be part of, and there's just so much going on in the industry that that's very exciting. And it's just kind of the tip of the iceberg in terms of we mentioned it earlier, how young this industry is. But specifically on Sysco, specifically for us, I think we're constantly putting in front of us what the customer is looking for. And I think it's really exciting how much our customer continues to evolve. They're looking for sustainability. They're looking for value. They're looking for diverse solutions. There's labor shortages. There's kitchen opportunities. There's supply chain challenges. Staying in front of all of those and being super innovative and thinking through solutions with the customer in mind is super exciting for us, especially as a merchandising team. So the team is constantly ideating on what more we can do to make it easier for the end customer, to make it easier for our sales consultant to sell, easier for our operators to get through the warehouse. So how we continually innovate there is something that is not only great for Sysco, it's good for the industry. And, again, IFTA together, the leaders come together a couple times a year. And I think the best thing we do is we sit there and we talk about things we could do together. And if we all band our hands together, we actually can get a lot done for the industry. And again, that's a power of IFTA. But, specifically, again, on Sysco, I think we have a lot of buying power ourselves, and how we sit back and push some of these things with our suppliers is going to be critically important. So, that's really exciting for me, and it's something that my team gets really excited about. And again, back to culture, breeding excitement, breeding the fun into our business, that brings culture. That excitement breeds more excitement, and momentum breeds momentum. So leaning in on that, allowing the team to have space and time to think, letting our team having that space and time to have the innovation sessions, to have contests around innovation, to be able to showcase that innovation. All those things to me is really important because it excites the team, you get really good ideas, and it helps build culture.
Well, look, I know you like to have fun because it's a fun industry. I've been playing this little game and it's just fun. One of my favorite questions to ask myself is, would I want to be led by myself? Like at the end of the day, and look, I can tell you this, Coach Brenna, if you say put me in, Julien, I would want to be led by you based on this conversation. So there you go. So you get the big check mark. Let's say you could only have a T-shirt right now. So you've got a cool, whatever, basketball T-shirt. What's the word you would choose to describe your leadership and why?
I would probably say calm. I have a very calm demeanor in my leadership style. It takes a lot to rattle me, and my team would tell you that in terms of I try. I'm like the duck that's floating on the top of the water, but it's paddling a million miles per hour underneath.
Yes.
And I try to keep that for my team because, again, this is a kind of a crazy industry, right? Dynamic, a million things coming at us all the time. And it's not that I'm taking bullets for my team. I think that's another whole podcast we can talk about. We can't do that as leaders. We should not be the rescuer. We should not be trying to jump in front of every bullet that comes. But we should be able to not jump at every shiny penny. We should not be getting people riled up for things that are not important. We should make sure that we're keeping ourselves focused on the things that matter. And I think that in the industry that's as dynamic as we're in, the ability to keep ourselves focused is critically important. And so I would say calm. I think that I allow my team a lot of autonomy. I allow my team a lot of space to make mistakes and also drive a lot of success. But I don't allow big things or like sideways things to rattle them. And I try to keep everybody in a calm state.
What a great word. And I think for this industry, well, for any industry, I mean, to be consistent as a leader, not get too high, not get too low. Let's be calm. Let's make sure we've got the right strategy. Let's pivot if we need to. I mean, what a great attribute. And as a parent, that would apply well as well, to be calm, right? To just be calm, right? Enough said right there. Enough said. Well, listen, on behalf of the IFTA community, on behalf of our listeners, I cannot thank you enough for your generosity of time today, sharing some thoughtful insights and lots to think about as listeners. And I want to thank our listeners as well, because good on you for investing some time in your leadership journey. And hopefully one of the things that came up on this conversation is going to help you on your journey, maybe unlock something or maybe help you double down. And with that said, I'm going to wish everybody a fantastic rest of your day. Go get 'em.